welcome to my channel. My name is Jen and today I'm going to be going over all of the books that I've been reading recently. So despite the fact that I filmed one, I never actually posted a December wrap up, and I got around to doing the January one and decided we were going to do this a little bit combined and just kind of go over the highlights and a couple of the not so great things that I've read in December and January. So for December, I've got two books to talk to you about that were really good. The first is Twisted Love by Anna Huang. This is a contemporary, slightly dark romance about, oh my god, I forgot her name already. This is not new, guys. Twisted Love follows Ava, whose brother is super protective because of some things that happened in their past, and like they literally live next door to each other. That's how kind of close they are. But her brother Josh is going away because he's in school to be a doctor. He's going to do some kind of like humanitarian thing. He asks his best friend Alex to kind of watch over her. Alex is very dark, doesn't smile a lot, doesn't show a lot of feelings, and he ends up moving into Josh's house while he's out. So he and Ava have a lot of interactions, and Ava's friends decide to kind of like try to crack the ice with Alex, and it turns into Alex and Ava becoming friends. Really, it probably isn't the right word, but definitely attraction and feelings evolve into that relationship. Alex also has a dark past that they're kind of both having to deal with throughout this. I really like this. I was not sure what I was going to think about this when I started it. I kind of started it on a whim, and I really enjoyed it. I have gotten since then the other 3 books in this series, and I am like ready to devour all things that Anna Huang writes. So that is definitely a new 2023 goal. And I just really enjoyed this. There was enough steam and spice in it that like it was almost like contained to one moment, and then while it was still there, it wasn't as prevalent, because one of the things that we'll talk about in a little bit is just I don't particularly like it when it's just all smut. So really enjoyed this, super excited. I gave this 4 stars. With this next one, do you know those, like, I don't have TikTok, so I have Instagram, which apparently I've been told is like 3 weeks behind everybody else, but I don't care. You ever see those things and you're like, oh, I'm gonna read this thing and I'm really excited about it, but you're really not sure if you're actually going to like it, and then you read it and it's good? So like Twisted Love technically also counts for that, but what really surprised me in December was Nanny for the Neighbors by Lily Gold. This is a contemporary rom-com, reverse harem, I choose, whatever you want to call it, that surprised me to a level that I haven't been surprised in a while. This starts with Beth. Beth is a unemployed nanny who lives in this apartment complex with this other guy that she thinks is really cute. And so one night she's by herself and cute guy shows up with asking for her help, and because she had like a flyer around that said that she was looking for work. So when the guys up in this apartment were like, we need your help, she comes up, and there are 3 guys in this apartment and a baby, and no one knows, well, they know who the mother, well, they figured out who the mother is, but they don't know who the father is, because the 3 of them were previously in a multi-partner relationship with this woman. So while they understand that this baby's mother is, I forgot her name, but this woman, they don't know which of the 3 of them is the father. And so there are also 3 bachelors and don't know how to take care of a baby, so they hire Beth to take care of the little girl whose name I also don't remember at the moment. But then things start to happen so there's Jack and Cyrus and Sebastian. That was his name, right? Yes. And she starts to kind of explore things romantically or sexually with Jack and Cyrus, and then Seb comes into it, and eventually it's all of them. And what I found really interesting about this was the found family aspect that I was not expecting to be attacked in the best way by. So Beth comes from the foster care system, so she aged out, so she was never actually adopted. So she's been kind of on her own her entire life, so she definitely doesn't want that to happen to this baby. But we've got 3 bachelors who don't necessarily know if they want to take care of a baby and raise a child. But the way all Beth and the guys and the baby come together to create this unit, it like took me by surprise. I was not expecting those kind of feelings from this book. Was I expecting all the spicy times? Yes, 100%, and that stuff was good. But what I wasn't expecting was to have this great found family thing that I literally could read forever. I found like a novella or something that the author posted like on her newsletter, and I was like, well, we're signing up for this. And I wanted to consume it all. Like, this is a book that I would reread. And like, yes, I reread romances, but like, this is, I don't know, it just was a whole other level. And now I am 100% waiting and anticipating reading everything Lily Gold has published so far, and very excited. I recommend this. The one thing I will mention that I laughed about was that it's the author is British and she's from the UK. And there were some things in there that I did not understand. I had to switch my Kindle dictionary to UK English, and then I was able to translate some of the words that are not common in America, so that I didn't know what the hell they were talking about, but I got through it. It was very minimal and definitely readable, but I thought it was hilarious because I was like, I don't know what this is. Thankfully there was a dictionary attached to my device. And unfortunately for me, I ended 2022 on a 2-star read, and that was First Offense, which is the first book in the Noir Reformery series. So in this world that is ruled by angels, if you do something that is like immoral, you get black wings and you are sent to this reformatory prison, basically. And the daughter of the king, Layla, has started, her wings have changed colors and they've become black, and she is sent to this prison along with her personal guard, Arik. And when she's there, she realizes things aren't quite as they seem. There are like these mass, honestly, they're murder sprees. It's just not a safe, despite the fact that it's meant to be a prison, it's not safe. And so obviously things are not as they seem. And there's also this question of why Layla's wings have turned black when she doesn't understand what she's done to deserve it. While they're in this prison, they run into Novak, who has history with Arik and is a bit of a bad boy. And they find themselves, both Layla, Arik, and Novak find themselves kind of attracted to each other. This is a MMF romance, and unfortunately I gave it 2 stars, but oh my god, I wanted to love this. So the big problem here was the writing. So like the plot and everything outside of the writing was like so good. I think the plot was great. It was just so poorly executed because you had just non-descriptive writing. And so like some of the characters, like you could see if you squint, like if you know you can see some like general character traits in, like, we'll call them cliche character traits in all of the characters, but I don't know, they like all just the writing wasn't there to connect me with them as people and to connect their relationship. Was the smut good? Probably. I think so. I can't remember at this point. I've blocked this from my mind because I thought about DNFing it several times and didn't, and I regret it. But I wasn't about to DNF my last book of the year. I wanted to give, so I ended with a 2-star read. I will not be continuing the series. There are more people on the cover, so I'm like concerned that this harem it's not even a harem because it's poly. There are more people on the cover. So like if this gets more crazy with less execution, like without proper execution, I'm not interested. So that was how I ended 2022. And we're doing much better so far in 2023. I read 10 books. 10 books? I finished 9 in January. But I'm just going to talk to you about some of them at the moment. The first one I'm only going to talk about briefly. This is an Avon book, so it is HarperCollins, and they are still striking. But it was my first 5 stars since August, and I wanted to briefly mention this. I will hopefully be able to talk to you more at some point about this more in depth, and that was Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. I hated It Happened One Summer, so I was thoroughly surprised that I gave this 5 stars, but this book did something to me. The next book I'm going to mention to you is Priest by Sierra Simone. This is a taboo romance between a priest and a woman he meets at church. What I'm learning is, and this again, 2023 is the year of learning about what I really like and what I don't in romance. And what I don't like is when there's this much smut in here, in detail. And one of the things that also may have attributed to me I did give this 4 stars, so it's not bad per se. That's, I think a lot of my criticisms are personal criticisms and not necessarily a ding against the book itself. Sierra Simone writes some amazing smut, so that stuff was not a problem. I'm just not into religion, and this is the story of a man who is struggling with his beliefs and his duty as a priest, and his duty to himself and his sister and his family. And it was it was a crisis of faith, is honestly what a lot of this was. And that crisis came in the form of a romance with what is her name? Poppy. So while this was really good, I think a lot of my negatives on this are personal and a lot to do with the religion of this. I do have now books 2 and 3. I am more curious about them because I know book 2, the heroine, this is also interesting because it's told entirely from the hero's point of view. I don't know if the other 2 are like that also, although a third one for sure because it's male. But if the second book is like that, he's not the religious figure in the book, so maybe I'll enjoy it more. I am definitely interested in this, but I did give this 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I think the writing in here, like, it holds up beyond anything else, and the characters were really interesting with the exception of Tyler's massive crisis that kind of took up more parts of the page than I would have liked, but that's just me. But I did really enjoy this, and I am going to continue this series. The next book I want to tell you about is Sweet Talk by Cara Bastone. This is the second book in the Loveline series, but it was the last one that I needed to finish. So this follows JD and Elliot, and one night, very late at night, JD gets a voice message from Elliot but it's strange because JD doesn't understand how Elliot even knows who she is, and it sounds a little suggestive, so she thinks he may have sent it to the wrong person. And it's late at night, they both suffer from insomnia, so the 2 of them begin voice messaging each other and calling each other. This is another one of those Audible originals that is told entirely. The dialogue is there, like the dialogue is actually between both narrators, while there is some like internal situations on all of this. Anytime there's dialogue, it's actually done by 2 different narrators. I'd highly recommend these. And just the 2 of them creating a relationship via voicemail and voice messages and phone calls, but they don't know who the other person is. So the big mystery is why JD knows who Elliot is, but Elliot doesn't know who JD is because he saved her number in his phone like as gibberish basically. So it was definitely a case of the wrong number, but the 2 of them developed this really great relationship that I was absolutely enthralled by. I love these Audible originals. This is the last one that I needed to read in this series, and I absolutely adore them. I gave this 4 stars. Next, I want to talk to you about What Lies Beyond the Veil by Harper L. Wood. This is another one of those. I saw it online and bought it, and hopefully it lives up to my expectations. And I almost DNF'd this. I did end up giving this 4 stars. But the last half of this brought that from a DNF to a 4-star read. In this story, there is a veil that separates it's a fantasy romance with fae. In this world, the veil was put up by, I believe, some witches, and separated the humans from the fae. And then every year there's like a sacrifice to keep the veil intact. And our female main character, whose name I am blanking on for the 18th time, Estrella's father had previously been sacrificed to the veil, and she's caught the eye of one of the lords who basically is grooming her. So there's a lot of trigger warnings in here, so please look those up. It is dark. As punishment for like betraying this lord, she is then going to be sacrificed to the veil, but as that is happening, the veil falls, and she basically goes on the run until she runs into, I almost wanted to call him Warwick. It's a completely different series. Callum. Basically, she only has him to kind of turn to as she's kind of on the run, because these people are now out to get her because she needs to be, because of the sacrifice and the fact that the veil is done. So not only is she being hunted by her people, but she is being hunted by the Dark Hunt because she is fae marked. I am remembering this in bits and pieces at this point. I read the first 100 pages on January 1st and then picked up the rest of it like 3 weeks later. And then found it very slow, and it wasn't moving. A lot of this could have been my kind of mood at the time. But it wasn't really moving fast enough for me, so I did grab the audiobook and sat down with that, and then I ended up really enjoying it once we got into the meat of the plot and the relationship between Estrella and Callum. And I feel like my thoughts on the rest of this are spoilers. I don't know. I'm gonna talk about this right here. I'll put something here, and then when it's gone, I'm done. One of the things I don't particularly like is fated mates when one of them is like knows that they're mates, but is like making overt gestures or saying things that like would make sense if like they knew, because he knows that they're mates. In this world, you get 13 lifetimes, and if you die after the 13th, you don't get reincarnated anymore. And Estrella was on her last life, and Callum was trying to come save her. I don't know. I was not a big fan of that part of it. I think that's what kind of put a lot of it off. Wasn't a big fan of that. I think he was constantly making comments about how she would love him and she would let him sleep with her and all of this stuff, and it was very presumptuous and it came off really weird. So I didn't particularly like that. And I know there have been fated mates books that I have read that I actually have enjoyed, but I think the way this was handled just didn't work for me. And lastly, we have The Wall of Winnipeg and Me by Mariana Zapata. This is a sports romance, a football romance, that follows Vanessa, who is the personal assistant of this big hotshot football player named Aiden Graves, and she is kind of done taking care of him. So she quits, and like 3 days later, Aiden comes back to her and says, I need you to come back and work for me. I need you back in my life. And she is very adamant that she doesn't want to. She wants to move on with her career. She wants to spend time, on her own things. But what ends up happening, in a very odd twist, is that Aiden is Canadian and he's working for the National Football Organization, I think is what it's called in here. And his contract is up, so his work status is a little iffy, and so he needs to get married so he can stay in the United States legally. And so he eventually offers Vanessa a lot of money and a house to marry him and allow this to happen. Just an FYI, if anyone wants to pay off my student loans and give me a house for marrying them, I would, for 5 years, I'll do it. I'll do it. I absolutely enjoyed this. I really love this. I gave this it's a 5-star kind of all around, but I think it's more like a 4.5, 4.75. It was almost perfect. I had some issues with the writing for a little bit. Don't ask me right now exactly what they were, but I think I found them a little lacking in they were just kind of, I don't even remember. I don't remember, but that was that. I remember, I know that was my big issue with this, but I'm not gonna say a ton more about this because I do have on Thursday, hopefully I get this up on time, on Thursday coming a football romance reading vlog where I read this and a bunch of other football romances in preparation for the Super Bowl that is coming next week. So stay tuned for that. Please subscribe so you can check that out. And that is all of the books that I've read recently that I wanted to share with you. Please comment down below and let me know what you've read recently that you absolutely enjoyed. Please give this video a big thumbs up. And again, subscribe if you have not already. I would greatly appreciate it. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.